All right, so now we move to the second unit, and the second unit speaks to the conceptual framework, and this is where we learn how to protect the fundamental principles. The conceptual framework helps us learn how to protect the fundamental principles. So the fundamental principles can be threatened by various circumstances. Now, the code uses the conceptual framework to identify, to evaluate, and to address threats. So there are 5 threats. Number 1 is self-interest threat, talking about financial or other interest, which may make the auditor reluctant to act against the client. While number 2 is self-review threat, talking about reviewing one's own work. And number 3 is advocacy threat, where the accountant promotes the client's position to the point of losing objectivity. And number 4 is familiarity threat, where it speaks to becoming too close to the client. And 5, intimidation threat, is being influenced by fear or threats. So how do we address these threats? 3 options is to eliminate the circumstances, number 1. Number 2 is to apply safeguards. And number 3 is to decline or end the professional activity. So think of this conceptual framework like a security system. It identifies threats, it identifies threats that is like intruders, and it evaluates those threats, how serious they are, and it addresses them with either alarms or guards or closes the building. A high-tech security system is one that can be used to analyze or look at an analogy of the conceptual framework of how we treat these threats. So here's a mnemonic for the framework process that will help us remember. IEA is first to identify the threat, E is to evaluate its significance, and A is to address it, eliminate, safeguard, or decline it. It's important to take note of that. So let's look at each threat in detail, starting with self-interest threat. You see, self-interest threat occurs when financial or other interests make the auditor reluctant to act against the client's interest. So what are the circumstances? We have number 1, financial interests like loans, guarantees. Then we have incentive-based fees. We have concern over employment security. We have commercial pressure. We have inappropriate personal use of corporate assets. We have close personal or business relationships. We have holding financial interest in a client. Or we have undue dependence on fees. So think of it like reviewing your brother's restaurant. You'll be reluctant to give a bad review because of your family ties. So your interest, your family harmony threatens your objectivity. And that's why self-interest is a threat to the accountant's position. Next is self-review threat. Now, self-review threat occurs when reviewing one's own previous work. So what are the circumstances? Reviewing business decisions you made, exerting influence over financial reports, discovering errors in your own work, reporting on systems you designed, and recently employed by the client in a key position, performing services that affect the assurance engagement. So think of it like marking your own exam paper. If you mark your own exam paper, you won't be as critical as someone else would mark it. So you might accidentally give yourself extra marks, and that is a self-review threat. Next is advocacy threat. It occurs when promoting the client's position to the point of losing objectivity. So what are the circumstances? Number 1 is commenting publicly on future events, supporting arguments against the law, promoting shares in an audit client, and advocating or acting as an advocate in litigation. So think of the difference between a lawyer. Think of the difference, between a lawyer and an auditor. The lawyer advocates for their client, even if the client is guilty. But an auditor must never advocate. If you argue for the client in court, you lose objectivity and become an advocate and not an independent verifier. Next is familiarity. You see, familiarity threat occurs when close relationships makes the auditor too sympathetic. So what are the circumstances? Number 1, family member benefiting from decisions, long association with business contracts, accepting gifts maybe that are less trivial, then overfamiliarity with management, then the former partner becoming director or officer of the client. So this analogy will help us remember. You can think of a long married couple. Maybe after 20 years of marriage, you stop noticing your partner's faults. Similarly, an auditor working on the same client for years becomes too familiar and stop being critical. And that's why partner rotation is required. Next is intimidation threat. Finally, we have intimidation threat, where intimidation occurs when conduct is influenced by fear or threats. What are the circumstances? We have threat of dismissal over accounting disagreements. We have dominant personality influencing decisions. And we have threat of litigation, and pressure to reduce work, to reduce fees. So think of it like a bully in the office place. The bully is threatening. If you don't sign off, you will never get work again. So the auditor is afraid and may compromise their objectivity. And that's an analogy to help you remember intimidation threat. So here's a mnemonic of the 5 threats. SSAFI: self-interest, self-review, advocacy, familiarity, and intimidation. Now, how do we address these threats? We address them through safeguards. So safeguards created by the profession, safeguards created by legislation, and safeguards created by regulation. And these safeguards are through education and training. Number 1, continuous program of education. In ICAN, we call it mandatory continuous program of education. Then we have corporate governance regulations. We have professional standards, where we have the ISAs. Then we have monitoring and disciplinary procedures. Then we have external reviews. You see, safeguards in the work environment speaks to monitoring systems and recruitment procedures. Then we have strong internal controls, ethical leadership. Then we have quality policies and documented threat identification. We also have separate teams for non-assurance services. We have whistleblowing policies, discussing ethical threats with clients, and consulting with professionals. So there are safeguards that are created by the individual. CPDs, mandatory continuous program of education compliance, keeping records of continuous issues, business relationship with other professionals, independent mentorship, contact with legal advisors and professional bodies. So think of safeguards like security layers. Think of them as like security layers. So professional level safeguards are the national police. Then we have work environment safeguards are the building security guards. The individual safeguards are the employee personal vigilance. So here is a mnemonic to remember. PWI speaks to the profession, the safeguard created by the profession. Then the work environment, the safeguard is created in the firm. Then the individual is created by the person himself. So this is very important to understand the fundamental principles and the threats to those principles and the safeguards on how to help mitigate most of these threats. This is very, very important. So that brings us to the end of Unit 2 on the fundamental principles. They are very important